Hey everybody, welcome back. What we're going to be doing now is a little demo bringing together PHP and MySQL and Ajax and jQuery all into one little happy tutorial. This one I'm going to be jumping around probably a bit between cuts just while things install and whatnot. But basically, I'm going to be following this tutorial so that, obviously you can follow along as well. There's a lot of code that I'm just going to be raw copying and pasting and kind of talking through rather than sitting through and typing out, all of the HTML, all of the PHP code that we need. It's basically all there for us. Kind of the key things to highlight really though are obviously the jQuery and the Ajax is what we care about for client-side scripting demo, but this kind of makes a nice little tutorial for how all of these pieces can fit together in one nice little self-contained website. And we already have all the tools necessary to get it done. So first things first, get a little preview of what else we're doing later on. I created a brand new virtual machine, and I'm following the DigitalOcean guide again that you have all seen probably multiple times already. But Linux, still Ubuntu 20, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. I'm skipping the virtual hosts because it's not necessary for this, but I just kind of wanted to let you know where I was in terms of virtual machine setup and all that fun stuff. Also, don't forget to open up that SSH port, otherwise you will lose access to your VM, as happens time and time and time again for everybody who forgets, myself included. And I've got a website here up and running. And that's it, nothing else. So let's go ahead and get our, here we go. So got my instance up here, and let's go into www.html. Now, nothing crazy. I'm going to make a Ajax Demo folder so we can kind of see what's going on. All right, there we go. Go into Ajax Demo. I'm just going to sit here for a moment because we have a few other things to talk about. Now, this particular demo is basically hooking up PHP, which is our server-side scripting language, to MySQL, which is our database engine, and we are going to be inserting and getting a list of records from our database. Now, obviously, the class really hasn't talked much about databases yet. You got a little bit of it in Ruby on Rails, but that was just kind of our little local SQLite databases. We didn't do anything with it, really. I'm not expecting you to be database wizards or experts, but just kind of understand its purpose and maybe some of the basics. Databases is a completely other class. Works very well with web architectures, honestly, but um, we're more so going to be using it in a practical fashion here. So I've got PHP, I've got Apache, I've got MySQL installed. The next step is to make our lives a touch easier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to install Phpmyadmin. Now, this is a web-focused or web front end for MySQL database management. It makes your life as a database or web admin much easier because you can interact with your database in a website instead of in the terminal, which is, always error prone. And if you're not comfortable with the syntax, I think I just made it temp 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or no, I made it Ajax. Nope. Simple password for my root one here. Just Ajax. Oh, user denied. Interesting. I could have swore that that's what I made my... Oh, I've got to sudo this. root-p Ajax. There we go. I'm in databases. Show databases. Nothing here yet. I still have to create it. Just wanted to show you that we basically have a clear slate here. So let's install Phpmyadmin. This used to be a really annoying process. It's a apt package now for Ubuntu, at least, or Debian systems. So apt install Phpmyadmin. It's going to expect that you have MySQL already installed and configured. If you don't, you're going to get some kind of bizarre errors halfway through the installation. So I'm going to select Apache 2. that lovely terminal GUI. And yeah, shouldn't take too long to install. Alrighty. So we're going to allow it to automatically configure our database just for ease of use. And let's call this some pass. And I've got a few links that I will put in the description as well, because logging in with Phpmyadmin, basically you have kind of an issue where you can't log in as root, and if you didn't create the user, it could be problematic as well. We'll get there. I'll show you. But this was completed successfully. Life is good here. Let's go over to our instance, and this is now /phpmyadmin, and I'm going to get a web interface that looks kind of like this, and this should let us log in. This was the user that I created with that configuration script that popped up. If you don't do that, you need to create either a user that can access Phpmyadmin, which will be in one of the links that I have. It was that Stack Overflow thing that I just showed you. Or you need to allow root to log in, which is usually not recommended for public-facing websites. But just be aware. Yeah, that's kind of what we've got going on here. So I've got a basic setup here. I've got standard databases. Let's go ahead and get up and running. But again, if you've never seen this before, I should probably double back and talk about this. This is the web interface for MySQL here. So we have the ability to run just any SQL statement you want. We'll be doing that a little bit later, where we get some SQL syntax. Excuse me. I can create a database, and let me go ahead and do that right now, because no privileges. Interesting. Oh, yep, I forgot something. So with our copy and pasted from Chrome there, one of the things we have to do with our Phpmyadmin user, and I completely forgot to do this step because I got all excited that the user was already created, I need to give them permissions to mess with their database. So this is actually going to be in the, it's not Stack Overflow, it's Ask Ubuntu. We need to give this user all privileges. So I'm going to go ahead and log into our MySQL instance, and I just started writing. Interesting. I thought I typed the password in wrong. I'm going to grant all privileges to this Phpmyadmin user, and we also need to remember to flush the privileges after we're done. Okay, get out of that. Let's go ahead and refresh our Phpmyadmin. We now see the rest of the MySQL databases, which is what we wanted to see before. And now I should be able to create. Why can't I create? Fresh. Interesting. Car. Home. Databases. Well, let's try this. I don't know if I'm going to leave that in or not, but let's go ahead and just create a brand new user for Phpmyadmin. I must have missed a step, which, again, it's always good for you to see me screwing up, right? Because then you'll know some of the issues that you might face. Log in. Let's go ahead and create a user. And now I'm going to call them demo user. So basically, this is going to create a user in MySQL. All right. And then I want to give them all privileges to everything. I need to remember to update the username because I changed it. Okay. Now I call this demo user, and I need to flush privileges, and I need to exit. And now if I log in here, and I think the password was, One thing I skipped over too, but here's where you define the password in this create user identified by some pass. So change this with something a little bit more secure. Some pass, log in. I screwed something up in the prior step. I'm not sure what it was. Probably because I let the system automatically configure itself. And then, yeah. Anyway, I now have the ability to create a database, which is exactly what I want. So I'm going to create a database here called employee. I now have a database for this demo. We're going to insert some tables here momentarily. And why don't we do that right now since we're already in here? Now this is SQL syntax. It's going to create a table called employees. We're getting a few columns here, so an auto-numbered ID, usually a good thing to have a unique identifier for your database tables. Email, first name, last name, address. We're going to say ID is the primary key, make it auto-increment. You could do this manually too in MySQL, or sorry, in Phpmyadmin if you want, but we have the query. I'm going to drop it into the SQL statement, and looks like there is some interesting syntax happening there. I'm not sure why that didn't like it, but it took. So life is good here. We have a database table. Now let's go ahead and get our actual form up and running. So first things first, I'm going to create an index.html table, and I'm going to do the realistic yet horribly lazy thing of just copying and pasting code. So I'm going to create a index.html file, paste it in, save it, and let's talk through this here. What we've got, standard website. All right, I'm going to have to modify this because it's not going to work. It's pulling in Bootstrap. You should all be familiar with that by this point. It has a style sheet which doesn't exist in this demo, so I'm just going to comment it out because yeah, I don't need to style this for the purposes of this demo. We've got a div, we've got a header, and we have some rows here that are going to be showing us our form for inserting an employee. And you actually see here there's a form, which is calling a save.php script. Basically, we're going to put information in here. It's going to send data to save.php and then insert into the database. Then a little bit lower, we have a list of employees where this div right here, employees list, is what jQuery is going to be updating auto-magically for us. And then we're going to drop our various includes for scripts at the bottom. Now, if it were me, I'd put them at the top, do a window.onload, but some people like to put it at the bottom. That's fine too. So what we're getting here is we're getting jQuery, we're getting Popper for some popover text, we're going to include Bootstrap from their content delivery network, and then this assets.js, scripts.js, I'll update the path to have it point to the correct location, but this is going to be our kind of controlling script that we have to do. So while I'm thinking about it, I'm going to update that right now. So update index, this style sheet is going to go away because we don't have it defined, and I'm not going to do that. And then I said we have to update the script location because I'm not creating an assets/js location. It's just going to be local. All right, so I've got my script. We've got that. Next step is the save.php. Now, PHP is not something that we're spending a lot of time on in the class, but what we have here is a PHP script that takes form data and saves it off to a database. Numerous ways you could do this with PHP. This is one of the simpler/easier ways where you just define all of your MySQL variables. At the top, open a connection, handle the minimum amount of failure, and just insert it directly. A much better way to do this would be to have lots of error checking, injection checking. Don't ever just trust user data straight off. That's an easy way to open yourself up to a whole range of issues. This is not good, hands down, but it's quick and easy for this demo. Don't ever do this. Anyway, so we've got this form here, and basically what's going on is we're going to connect to our database with these items here. So your server name is localhost because it's on the web server. This is going to be the username and password that has privileges to work with your database. and then what's the name of the database here. This information at the top is our form data. And again, this is where we're not really doing any error handling, like we're just trusting email. And you see later on here, so like $email equals request email. So we're getting form data. Down here, when we insert it into our database, it's just going in raw. There's no stripping of bad characters. There's no checking for a semicolon, delete everything from employees, for instance. It's just injecting it right away. I'm spending a lot of time because this is an issue. All right, so I'm gonna insert this into my web server. So this is save.php, save.php. Drop that in here. Again, I'm just copying and pasting it directly. We'll come back to this one in a moment. The next script that we have is all.php. And what this does is it's going to get a list of everything in our database. It's going to update that side field that lists out all of our employees that we've inserted. And our Ajax script is going to be basically calling this to see if an update has occurred. Same thing at the top. We're going to have our connection information, connect to our database. Again, it would be better to centralize this so you're not redefining it in every file. But what it's going to do here then is just pick everything from the employees table, get the results, send the row set back to jQuery, and here's your data package. Do with it what you will. All right, so this is all.php. We're just going to save this off again. All right, last but not least, we have script.js, and this is going to be our jQuery, Ajax, work with our form kind of information. I'm going to call this script.js, drop it in, and let's talk through it. So what we've got here, we've got a function where we have our Ajax being configured. Again, I'm not going to kind of step through each and every line to explain what it's doing, but we have a get call to basically have that HTML get response. This is the URL that we're talking to, which is getting our list of employees from our database. And then if it was successful, call this function, which is basically parse out the JSON response, which is that row set that MySQL sent along. And then we're going to basically just build up an HTML element that lists out every single row in our database, send it back to our HTML page, and update that specific div with this content. So you actually see at the very bottom here, this $pound employees dash list. This is that div from up above in our HTML page. So basically grab this div and just set the HTML content of this object. All right, so that's all that that's all that jQuery is doing here. The Ajax is what's talking to the backend server. Okay, so if that makes sense, this is our get information for getting from the database. We also have form submission so that we don't have to refresh our website every time we click the button. Basically what's happening is that once the button gets clicked, right, we're going to handle the onClick event, get all of our data, post it to our PHP script. If something went wrong, handle it. Otherwise, reset the form. We assumed it's successful. What's reset the form? Well, we can just clear out the information from the form with a reset call pretty easily. And when our page loads, so on this document.ready, which is our page load call, get all of the information that we have and submit the form if anything's there. So we have all of this information. It's not going to work straight off. Let me actually leave Phpmyadmin open so I can show you. All right, so here's our employees table. In Phpmyadmin, if you've never worked with it before, you click a table and you click browse, it's just going to select everything, or it's going to select the top X records. So we're going to see right here, there's nothing in there right now. If I go to, what did I call this? Ajax Demo / Ajax Demo, it's not going to work. If I pop open my console, I'm going to see some errors, 404 not found, scripts.js. Okay, I screwed something up there. Because I called it script, not scripts. So let's do clear this, sudo mv scripts script to scripts with an S. Now when I refresh, okay, now I'm going to get a syntax error from my PHP script, which makes sense. I've got my database config completely wonky. The error that we're seeing is a JSON error because whatever's coming back from our database is not what's expected. Our error handling is pretty poor for this example. But the page itself, here's our form. This is where our list of employees is going to go. So let's fix a few things and then we will kind of get back into it. So we've got all.php. Now let's fix our connection string. So localhost is fine. Root is not fine. We call this we called this demo user. And the password we gave it was some pass. So this is why you want to be very careful with your MySQL config, especially if you're recording videos for the internet. Your password is going to be in clear text here, unless you do something a little bit more intelligent with it. All right, so here's my username and password to connect. Our database name is employee, right? Employee, yep. The table's employees, an S. Okay, so we have this saved. Everything else here should be fine. So we save that. And now we also have to edit our save.php. And hopefully you can see where having configuration information in every single file is a bad idea, very error prone, because maybe we screwed something up, right? Because here's my login information. I have to do the same thing again. The smarter way would at least minimally be to just include it as a kind of a global config, database name, employee, and then everything else in here should be fine. So let's open up our console to see if we have an error. Refresh. Perfect. No records found. One thing that we can do to show this actually working before we use our form here, let's go ahead and insert something in our database by hand. So in Phpmyadmin, insert, I'm going to say e@f.com, Eric Fredericks, 123 Street, Allendale, Michigan. Okay, I'm going to click go to insert this. This builds the SQL query for me, which is, again, why this is a nice interface if you're kind of administrating things. When I go to browse, I see my employee right here. I go refresh my page. Okay, it's actually pulling from the database correctly, which is good. All right, now the add form. Let's say aaa@bbb.com, ab, test address, please ignore. Submit. Employee's been created successfully. So we have a JavaScript pop-up happening. Watch the page. The page does not refresh. Okay, that's kind of one of the key distinctions here with the client-side scripting and the Ajax thing. Normally, you click a form button and the entire page refreshes because it's packaging up this data and sending it elsewhere. Instead, we're using jQuery. Once the submit button happens, we're kind of overriding it and using Ajax to actually post the form data for us. Okay, so this actually works. Life is good. If I refresh my list here, I see my information. Let's be cheeky about this. Let's see if I can break it. I'm not sure if this is going to work. Okay, email eee@fff.com, Eric, F, semicolon, let's try this. F, semicolon, drop everything from employees. See if this works. No, because it's coming in as a string. Okay. What's the execute command? So this is kind of thing that I was talking about, right? If I have knowledge of the database, I'd probably have to sit and look and drop it out. Is it backtick? Drop from employees. That's gonna, okay, it's doing a little bit of nice parsing because we're inserting nice. We have to look up the syntax. Now let's do that for fun. Sql Injection Attack. This is kind of what I'm getting at. Examples. Even better. Yeah. I want to actually see it working. It's been a while since I've done this. That's why I'm kind of interested. Okay. Don't want to watch your video. Wonder if I can do something like this. Sorry, I'm having fun with this now. A quote, semicolon, drop. I just want to break this just for fun. And then let's let's try that. I don't know if this is going to work. Ooh, it actually breaks it off. Interesting. Okay. Last attempt. Some of you that are actually more security conscious are probably screaming at me. That's super easy. Close the quote. Let's do escape the quote, semicolon. Drop from employees. Another back quote? No. I guess the point is, yeah, I'd have to play with this and see if I can get it to work. Point is, you can put anything you want in here. Make sure that you check for bad code. So overall, this little demo is kind of fun. It's nice. Great example of not trusting your user data, but how we can dynamically update things. Anyway, I will see you next time. Have a great day. Bye, everybody. Oh, and one more thing. If you know how to do this SQL injection attack, please feel free to comment below and let me know because I'm kind of interested to see how you would break this too. Official bye.